Welcome to This Explainer. Let's be real for a second. If you have ever stared at a totally blank screen, agonizing over what your professor is actually looking for, you are absolutely in the right place today. We are going to completely dismantle everything you thought you knew about writing an academic paper, and we're going to take your writing skills from, basic competence to absolute excellence. And I have to ask you a really serious question right off the bat. Are you still writing like you're in high school? Because as an instructor, I see it all the time. I get these incredibly skilled wordsmiths in my class, but they arrive completely stuck in their old high school habits. They just assume college writing is more of the exact same thing. You might have been the absolute star student of the 5-paragraph essay back in the day, but relying on that old formula in higher education, well, it's kind of like trying to win a Formula One race on a tricycle. It served its purpose, it really did, but right now it is definitely holding you back. So here is our game plan for today's explainer. We'll kick things off by welcoming you to college writing, then we're going to officially retire the 5-paragraph theme. After that, we'll build what we call a 3-story thesis, explore the organic college paper, and wrap up by talking about writing to figure it out. Okay, let's jump right into section 1. Welcome to College Writing, a Paradigm Shift and Expectations. We really have to start by acknowledging your past successes, while recognizing that, hey, it is time to evolve. Those skills you learned to craft a basic essay, they are indispensable training wheels. Honestly, if you're already good at the 5-paragraph theme, you know how to identify a consistent thesis and organize your evidence, and that is fantastic. But now you've got to build upon those training wheels to deliver nuanced, compelling arguments. Your instructors don't just want to see that you can follow a prompt anymore. We want to see your independent analysis. We want to see your intellectual ambition. Which brings us to section 2, retiring the 5-paragraph theme, moving beyond the formula. It is officially time to say goodbye to those comfortable little boxes you're so used to checking. Think about the stark contrast between the bland, loosely related body paragraphs of the past and the organically structured momentum that college instructors actually expect to see. In the old 5-paragraph theme, your thesis was probably pretty obvious, right? Usually just listing out 3 reasons. And honestly, the order of your body paragraphs rarely even mattered. You could practically swap paragraph 2 and 3, and the essay would still make total sense. But in an organic college paper, the structure builds logically. Every single paragraph leads naturally and directly right into the next one. And the conclusion is totally different too. Instead of just repeating your introduction like a mirror image, an organic conclusion actually does some heavy lifting. It explains the broader implications. It finally answers the question, so what? A crucial part of this shift is totally redefining what makes a thesis acceptable in the first place. It has to be arguable. Now, in everyday life, we often use the word arguable to mean something is doubtful. But in academia, it isn't about being doubtful at all. It's about proposing a non-obvious idea that legitimately needs pages to unpack and justify. Look, if your thesis is sustainability is important, well, no reasonable person disagrees with that. There's zero motivation for me to read your paper. But if your thesis is sustainability policies will inevitably fail if they do not incorporate social justice, well, now I am intrigued. You've introduced some healthy skepticism and a statement actually worth arguing. All right, section 3, building a 3-story thesis from the ground up. Let me introduce you to the absolute secret weapon for top-tier academic writing. I love this quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes, SR, because he provides a perfect architectural metaphor for layering an undeniable thesis. So many students just panic when they see the word thesis on a prompt because they think they have to pull some magical, ultra-complex sentence out of thin air. But Holmes reminds us that it's actually a building process. You construct it story by story, ending with that brilliant skylight of illumination at the very top. Let's break those stories down, because it's like a giant puzzle. As you stack these ideas, you aren't replacing the previous story. You're building upon it. The first story is simply your foundation. State the complex, relevant background facts. Then, for the second story, you formulate your insightful, arguable point based on those facts. And the third story? That's your skylight. That's where you articulate the larger implications. It's where you step back and tell the reader exactly why this matters to the rest of the world. Let's compare 2 different thesis statements to really demonstrate that so what factor. Version A says, linen served as ancient currency connecting rival empires via trade circuits. Now, that is a solid 2-story thesis. It has facts, and it has an arguable point about linen acting as ancient currency. But version B? It says linen served as ancient currency, raising important questions about how environmental shifts influence economics and political conflicts. Wow. Version B adds that crucial third story. It puts the claims into a much broader context. And this is exactly the version that is going to impress your instructors. It takes a super arcane topic like ancient linen, and it shows us why understanding it actually matters today. We can also walk through a real example, analyzing online learning in higher education. See how a student can evolve from just stating facts to uncovering massive societal implications. First story facts: online learning is prevalent and diverse. Second story argument: it's not just a transformation, it's an extension reaching non-traditional learners. And the third story skylight? It promises to integrate higher education with society, promoting a much freer flow of ideas. Putting all three of these together creates an incredibly powerful, unstoppable thesis statement that paves a perfectly smooth path for your entire paper. Moving right along to Section 4, the Organic College Paper, Translating the Blueprint. Let's look at how this three-story structure actually transforms the body and flow of your essay. Because once you have a strong thesis, the paper almost demands to be written in a specific way. In an organically structured paper, you are showing your reader the actual work you've done. You're leading them through a logical chain where every single paragraph is vital. This gives your paper authentic momentum. There are no vague, fluffy intro sentences anymore. Every single word specifically sets up your thesis. And because your three-story thesis is complex, your transitions are going to feel totally natural and inevitable, not forced. And like we mentioned, your conclusion finally has a real job. It builds out that third story and leaves the reader with a profound new insights. Now, here is a massive stumbling block for a lot of students. Do not confuse political polarization with academic strength. A strong argument in college isn't about shouting the loudest or writing aggressive, combative statements. It's about being comprehensive and nuanced. You absolutely must consider plausible counterarguments, and you have to present your well-specified thesis right away, without any fear of giving away the spoilers early. Look, I know some writers try to hide their main point to build suspense, kind of like a movie, but in an academic paper, there are no spoilers. Clarity and nuance are your true strengths here. Finally, Section 5, Writing to Figure It Out, Demystifying the Process. Because, let's be honest, a perfectly structured organic paper rarely starts out that way. We need to address the terrifying, messy reality of the writing process itself. You might imagine great writers just bounding along like huskies across the snow, effortlessly typing out these brilliant essays. But as Anne Lamott reminds us, that is entirely a fantasy of the uninitiated. Even the professionals don't write elegant first drafts. A polished, organic paper makes the difficult thing look incredibly easy, but the actual process of getting there, it is usually a struggle. And honestly, this should be incredibly reassuring for you. Experienced writers do not figure out what they want to say and then write it down. They write in order to figure out what they want to say. It means you are absolutely supposed to use the drafting phase to discover your true argument. You don't need a perfect three-story thesis before you type your very first word. The act of writing is literally the act of thinking. Novice writers tend to view revision as a step backward, like they've made some sort of mistake. But maintaining a dialogue between your thesis and your body paragraphs is actually a major step forward. Think about it. You start with a tentative first impression thesis, then you draft the body, and boom, suddenly you discover some thorny contradictions in your research. So what do? You go back and actively revise your thesis based on that new evidence. It is a constant, messy, beautiful loop of refinement. So, as you finish up this explainer and go off to stare down your next blank page, I really challenge you to ask yourself why your facts matter to the rest of the world. Please, don't settle for the old 5-paragraph formula. Push yourself. Build that first story of facts, layer on your arguable second story, and break open that skylight to show us the grand implications. What is the third story of the argument you're trying to build right now? Get out there and go figure it out.